A very good afternoon, Team Zimbabwe, and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And this afternoon, let us take a look on what is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe. There's this report, which is right here, reported by newszimbabwe.com, and it's a very interesting report. It says Indian special forces from the military are operating in the nation of Zimbabwe. And we need to take a look onto that report and see the possibilities of that happening. So we need to get to newszimbabwe.com and understand the headline is suspicion as armed Indian forces unit spotted operating in Zimbabwe. And they've posted pictures of a vehicle. This is the vehicle right here of Indian special forces. It's inscribed with the impossible Indian Army Special Forces, and this is the vehicle, a Toyota Fortuner, and it said it's operating from Zimbabwe. So they said in a report, questions have been raised over a suspected armed special forces unit of the Indian Army reportedly operating in Zimbabwe's gold and chemical manufacturing sectors, where it is enjoying unfettered access to raw materials. The highly trained soldiers have been engaged in Mozambique's war-torn Cabo Delgado region, where that country's government is fighting insurgents. But their presence locally has raised more questions than answers. The unit is moving around in vehicles branded Indian Special Forces and has taken up space within the coding, mining, and chemicals manufacturing sectors, where it is claimed to enjoy unchecked authority. So there is a former cabinet minister whose name was withheld from Midlands province, who is said to be a key enabler of the operation. Who might be this person interested in gold and chemicals? It's none other than and is the guys Kutindiani, who is a former cabinet minister. So I do not know, guys, who this cabinet minister from Midlands could be. So we need to take a look. So newszimbabwe.com spotted two vehicles, a white Toyota GD6 and a grey Ford Ranger with Indian with the impossible label on its back panel, while the Ford Ranger is inscribed, "We are the fearless." So these are the vehicles right here into the picture, the Ford Ranger and the Toyota Fortuner. So this is a GD6 Toyota Fortuner and a Ford Ranger right there. So these are the vehicles, and it seems as if they were recently registered here in Zimbabwe. So according to News Zimbabwe, they say the sources within Central Intelligence CIO have identified, said the vehicles which were identified have been seized, whilst more are being tracked down. So hundreds more of the units members who had been redeployed in India are said to have found their way into Zimbabwe, where they've taken to trade in illegal medicines, arms trade, gold, and lithium mining. These are mostly characters who arrived in the country on tourist visas before deviating and engaging in businesses such as the production of sex enhancement drugs. These drugs were last week flagged by the Zimbabwean health authorities, who initiated a raid in collaboration with the Police and Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe, NCAS, in Mavuku. So newszimbabwe.com reports that they have it on good authority that 11 Indians have so far been deported in the past 2 weeks, with 19 more expected out by end of this week. So these individuals made their way into the country after their efforts at ending unrest in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, said the source who shared details and supporting documentation of their enterprise. So a lot has been said. They've been linked to RBZ. They've been linked to a former cabinet minister, and they are more interested in gold and in lithium, and it's something else when you see special forces from other countries operating in your country in numbers, then it's a cause of concern. And we hope that the security forces of Zimbabwe are going to deal with this matter decisively and quickly. So they are reported to be working with some business people. Reportedly, Ashok Jain, who is, I think, who is pictured right here. He has been also linked to some issues of gold mining, which is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe. So it said that at a certain point in time, they tried to facilitate a meeting between the Indian tycoon and President Mnangagwa, and it was flagged by the CIO operatives. So I don't know if it continued or it was stopped after it was flagged. But this is what is happening. These are the reports right here from newzimbabwe.com. And we need to take a look on the possibilities of the Indian special forces operating in Zimbabwe. Yes, there is a possibility that they might be hired to come and operate in Zimbabwe as business people, but with an agenda, maybe to take a look on what is happening in the country, the security setup, because if they are trained people, they have to know who is who. Take a look on the infrastructure. They will have to pose as business people. Take a look on the infrastructure, security infrastructure and setup. Take a look on bases, who is who, and so forth. Then they will have to find a strategy. That is, if they are hired by somebody. But taking a look onto this story right here in front of us, this car is inscribed Indian Army Special Forces, and it's operating in Zimbabwe. So if this was an official vehicle for the Indian Army Special Forces, you could have seen a better encryption put on this vehicle, maybe on the door or other parts of the car, not like this one you are seeing right on the screen. I think kuti zvinogona kungoitwawo nanatsotsi izvi, zvinogona kungoitwawo nevanhuwo zvavo, so that maybe kwavanenge vachifambira ikoko, the agenda will be to try and instill fear in the people vari makorokoza and so forth, because remember muzimbabwe mune makorokoza akawanda and there are always battles for mining claims. So kana vane makomba avo avanenge vachioperata, maybe they were doing so to try and instill fear in makorokoza, to say, okay, these are special forces, these are people from India, and these are very trained people, highly trained people, so that they will fear. So I'm not dismissing the fact that these are special forces from India, but I'm simply trying to reason around the encryption of Indian Army Special Forces on the vehicles. I don't get any sense. There was no need for them to do so, because that would alert some people, just like what happened. This newspaper was alerted because of this encryption, but if it was not there, they would not even have dared to take a look onto this video or on these cars. So if they were on an operation in Zimbabwe, which is negative, they would have used cars which are not branded. And also they would have used mainly hired vehicles. We do not know if these vehicles were not hired. We do not have enough information as to regards to that effect. But this is my own thinking. So if also there was an issue, these are Indian Army Special Forces, we would have heard about them being arrested. We have heard about the cars being seized. We have not heard about them being arrested. So these will be people, if they are special forces, they need a special clearance to be in Zimbabwe, especially when they are in numbers. So you cannot be in a group of 3 people and you are all special forces from a certain country. You are in the country at the same time. You are not protecting anybody and you are in the country. We have to ask questions. What are you doing here in your numbers? So all those issues are of concern, which means if they were not arrested in person, then it seems as if something big is behind. Maybe they were here on the invitation of someone who is even bigger, or they're there to protect the interests of their citizen who is an Indian. And maybe there would be a sort of an agreement with the authorities here, but they would not need to share some details. If you take a look on the involvement of a minister, then it becomes more complicated. But this is what I think, Team Zimbabwe. I do not know how you view it and what you think we need to share. What do you really think about this?